Hello, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to get a chance to speak with some of our BCLI fellows that we've corresponded so much with. My name is Meredith. You may have received some emails from me, and obviously you've received a lot of emails from student Sheena. We just want to say first, congratulations again on being accepted as a BCLI fellow. We're really excited to be partnered with BCLI, and really excited to be welcoming you to the U.S. soon for this really exciting training program that you guys are doing. If you have any comments or questions while I'm going over any of this procedural stuff, feel free to write it in the comments section of the YouTube video. Every once in a while I'll pause and look at it in between sections, but in general I probably won't get to most. If you have any questions, I probably won't get to them till the end of the video. And so just to briefly go over the agenda of what we'll be talking about today. First, I wanted to sort of briefly summarize some basic information about Atlas Corps so you know who we are, briefly go over how to schedule your visa appointment if you haven't already, give you some general tips about the visa interview, and then go over some practice interview questions with Sudhak Sheena, and then what to take with you to the interview. So away we go with Intro to Atlas Corps. So first of all, if you haven't already looked at our website, Atlas Corps is an overseas fellowship for the world's best nonprofit leaders. Our mission is to address critical social issues by developing leaders, strengthening organizations, and promoting innovation through an overseas fellowship of skilled nonprofit professionals. And it's 12 to 18 months. It's a professional fellowship where fellows serve full-time at host organizations. And we have some similarities to what BCLI does in that we're developing rising leaders through international exchange, which is what you'll be doing during your fellowship. And so Atlas Corps and BCLI have partnered together in carrying out this common mission of developing nonprofit leaders or social issue leaders, and in your case it's educational leaders. And so what we're doing is Atlas Corps is sponsoring your visas while BCLI manages the training program for you guys and helps place you at the public schools where you'll be serving. And Atlas Corps and BCLI also, try and collaborate in general. We've even had fellows who have been hosted, Atlas Corps fellows who have been hosted at BCLI. So we're excited to be partnered with them. In terms of how to schedule your interview, I'll go through this really briefly because I think most of you have already scheduled your interview. And you should have all received your DHL package of visa documents already. Let us know if you haven't received it. It means it probably got held up somehow. And there is still one required document that wasn't in that package, your DS7002 training plan, which just required your supervisor's signature. So we'll be emailing it to you today. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to send them. Actually, I'll send them all to you guys right after we finish the webinar. So just print them out, and then you sign on the part that says trainee, and then make sure you take it with you to your visa appointment.
Yep, exactly. So you'll all have those before your scheduled appointment. If you haven't already, you can schedule your appointment by going to the U.S. Embassy's website in your country. It will require you to pay a DS-160 form and pay a visa processing fee of $160. And then once you've scheduled your appointment, definitely let us know. We're trying to have everyone schedule their appointments by July 18th. If you can't get an appointment till later, schedule it anyway. Schedule it for the earliest date you can get it, even if it's after July 18th. So let me just pause for a brief second and see if there was any questions on our YouTube video so far. It doesn't look like it. Great. So some general tips for your visa interview. In your visa interviews, you should emphasize that Atlas Corps is your program sponsor, and you'll be serving with your host organization, DC Public Schools, or DCPS. You should speak in terms of Atlas Corps. For example, this is a one-year training program with Atlas Corps. You actually don't even need to mention BCLI unless you're asked. In fact, if you go the whole visa interview without mentioning BCLI, that's perfectly fine. That's not because BCLI is something to hide, but pardon me, I have a little bit of a cold. But because talking about 3 different organizations, Atlas Corps, BCLI, and the public schools, talking about those 3 organizations in a visa interview can be confusing to a consular officer, and you don't want to confuse the consular officer. That could hurt your chances of being approved. So if you're asked about BCLI, you can say, because it is written in your training plan that you're receiving guidance from them, that Atlas Corps and BCLI are partners, Atlas Corps sponsors our visas, and BCLI leads our training program in collaboration with Atlas Corps. So that's a big tip to just keep things simple. Another big thing that consular officers are looking for when they interview candidates they're looking for strong ties back to your home country. So always think about how you can show that. And so for some people, this is that they have family back home, or they have a job offer waiting for them after the fellowship, things like that, or even if you don't, or they have property like a house, something tying them back to their home country. Even if you have none of those things, you can still talk about what's drawing you back to your country, and why you're eager to return after the fellowship. Keep your answers short and succinct, and just again so that you're not confusing the consular officer. And then another tip that can sometimes be confusing to folks is the difference between employment and training. This is a training visa, and so you never want to say work or employment or anything like that. Just say training, volunteering, service. Those are all acceptable terms to use, but employment is actually a different visa, an H1 or H2 visa. So if you say work, they could very easily say, oh, you're actually applying for the wrong visa. So make sure to describe this as a training program, which it is, because that's the visa you're applying for. Always smile, be confident, be honest. If you don't know the answer to a question, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's better to say that than to make up an answer. So it's fine to say something like, oh, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that Atlas Corps is sponsoring my program. I'll be serving full-time at this public school, and I'm looking forward to developing my skills in education and curriculum development so I can come back to my country and apply my skills here. Something along those lines to bring it back to the things you do now. That being said, you should still have a basic knowledge of what Atlas Corps is. You should be able to basically describe what Atlas Corps is. So those are our overall tips. We're going to do a practice interview, and your visa interview may not go into this much detail. In fact, it's pretty common for fellows to come back to us after the interview and be like, wow, the interview you did was so much more involved and so much more detailed than the actual interview, which was like 2 minutes, which is great. You should just be prepared to answer these questions, and we'd rather you be over-prepared than under-prepared. And they could ask any one of these questions. Different officers ask different things. So that's why we go through all these questions, even though if the interview goes well, it could be very, very short. It's not essential to know every one of these answers by heart. The important thing is to be honest and confident. So we're going to go through these questions. Pardon me. Pardon me. And I'm going to pretend to be a consular officer. Sudakshina is going to pretend to be a fellow, a BCLI fellow, applying for a visa. And sometimes she's going to give the right answer, and sometimes she's going to give the wrong answer, and then we'll stop and talk about it and what's wrong about it. So, and then we'll talk about what the right answer is. So we'll go through these answers, and I'll give a little commentary on them so that you know what to talk about in your interview. So, starting with some background info. So what visa are you applying for?
A J1 exchange visa.
And who is the program sponsor?
BCLI.
Okay, so that is the wrong answer. Atlas Corps is your program sponsor of your visa. It says on all your paperwork that we're your sponsor. So, so the correct answer would be for who was your program sponsor?
Atlas Corps.
Correct. So you know, I've never heard of Atlas Corps. Who are they, and what do they do?
They're an international fellowship program, but I don't really know that much about them.
So this would be a wrong response too. Even though you may have never heard of Atlas Corps before we emailed you just a few weeks ago, you should be comfortable saying at least a basic description of Atlas Corps. So even if it's pretty simple, you could say something like,
Atlas Corps is an international exchange program for nonprofit leaders, and they offer a year-long fellowship to serve full-time at a host organization in the United States and learn nonprofit management skills that fellows can apply in their home countries.
All right, there you go. So, so my next question is, where will you be placed during your fellowship?
I will be placed at District of Columbia Public Schools.
Mm-hmm. And so, will you be working there?
Yes.
So this is another wrong answer, because I could easily respond to that and say, you're applying for the wrong visa. A J1 visa is not for working. Goodbye. See you later. So instead, if someone asks you about working, you would say,
no, I will not be working. I will be training in a nonprofit or education management skills program.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so who is BCLI?
BCLI is another organization committed to developing rising leaders. Atlas Corps and BCLI are partners. Atlas Corps sponsors our visas, and BCLI leads our training program in collaboration with Atlas Corps.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And this maybe goes without saying, but you should also know what BCLI stands for. So Burt Corona Leadership Institute, if they ask you what that stands for. Pardon me. And so tell me about the training program.
Our training program will include learning and reviewing U.S. education content standards for elementary and middle school learning.
Great, great. And how long is the program?
12 months.
Mm-hmm. How did you get accepted into this program?
I applied online and was interviewed by a staff member, people from BCLI, the different DCPS, the public schools, and I was then selected out of hundreds of applicants, so it was a huge honor.
Great. And I am actually not that familiar with the selection process that you guys went through, so we just gave kind of a rough approximation. I assume you had interviews with the staff members and everything. So, but feel free to describe what your interview process was like. And why do you want to do this program?
I want to learn new methods and perspectives on various aspects of education, such as classroom management, curriculum development. After this fellowship, I want to come back to my country and apply my skills to build up our education sector.
Great. And how will this program make you a better person?
I think I'll learn leadership skills. I'll meet, lots of people in the education sector in the United States, and be working with a lot of great people in this field. So I think this will broaden my perspective and worldview.
Great. And do you have a college degree, and where did you study?
Yes, I went to Syracuse University.
Yes.
Studied education.
Yeah. And do you have a job now, and what do you do?
Yeah, right now I'm working as a teacher at a school, and I'll be able to, take some time off for this fellowship program and then come back and go back to teaching.
Yeah. So, and so just so you know, in case you, if you just left a job to do this fellowship, you can still mention it. It's better than saying you're unemployed, because if you recently had a job, it shows ties back to your home country, that you have career options there. And what are you going to do after the program?
I'm not really sure. I might stay with my host organization in the U.S. and keep my options open.
So this is one of those wrong answers. This answer, should come from you and be honest, but it should involve returning to your home country and working the nonprofit sector or the education sector, and or possibly maybe getting a graduate degree in this area. If you plan to return to your same job or organization after the fellowship in your home country, it's helpful even to have your supervisor write a letter supporting your participation in this program and your return to the organization afterwards. Because again, it's one of those things that shows ties back to your home country, that you actually have a job waiting for you back home, though it's not a requirement by any means. And so, so a better answer for what you're going to do after the program would be,
when I get finished with the program, I'm going to go back to my home country. I'd like to work with some of the teachers at the school I work with, and really, try to implement the things I learned during my fellowship program.
Pardon me. And have you been to the U.S. before, and on what type of visa?
No, I have not.
Okay. And if you have been to the U.S. before, obviously mention it. The consular officer will be able to see your visa history. And in terms of, they could ask you if you've ever been denied a visa before, or if you've ever applied for a visa before. And again, you should always be honest about those things, because the consular officer can see your history anyways. In most cases, if they can just bring it up on their computer usually. So there's no reason to lie about it. I think I took a look at all your travel history anyways and didn't see any denials. But if you have been denied a visa to the U.S. before, don't bring it up unless the consular officer brings it up. But definitely don't lie about it either. You should be prepared to talk calmly and confidently about the reasons for your previous denial and why this time is different. So if you have any questions about your particular case, just let us know. I seem to remember that everyone was pretty clear, if I recall, but I haven't looked at it in a while. And then, do you have any family in the U.S.?
No.
Okay. If you do have family, just mention them and what kind of visa they're on. And they may ask you whether you'll be seeing them when you're here, but that's something that they could ask about. All right. So, what is your biggest motivation to come back to your country?
My biggest motivation is definitely my family. My husband and my children are back in my country, so I definitely want to go back after the fellowship and spend time with them.
Great. So family is a big thing, obviously. Sometimes people talk about their career, which lies in their country, or you could even say something like, oh, I've seen firsthand the challenges that my country faces in the education sector, and I'm eager to learn new skills that I can come back to my country and apply my skills here to build up the education sector. And obviously, like I said before, if you have property in your home country, like a house or something like that, that's also a reason to come back. And how much money are you putting into the program?
I had to pay a $500 fee.
And how much money will you be making during your fellowship?
$4,000 a month. I just want to make a side note here. I know one of you, just for the how much money are you going to be making, on your DS7002s, what I'll be sending you after this, you can check there to see, because I think it's different for some of you. So just check what your own form says and go off of that, because the consular officer will have your DS7002. So
great. And let's see, that should be, so the next question is, who is paying you?
My host organization.
Yeah. And where does the program get their funding from?
Well, Atlas Corps receives about 75% of its funding from host organizations, and receives the rest of it from corporations, foundations, individual donors, and the U.S. government.
So I doubt they'd ask you for super detailed stuff about Atlas Corps' funding model and everything, but just so you know, that is where we receive our funding from. A lot of it comes from host organizations. And obviously our DC public schools are government funded. All right, so that basically covers the things, the questions I want to go over that a consular officer could ask. I'm going to pause briefly to see if anyone typed in any questions Looks like no, which is awesome. Means everything is pretty clear. So, so last thing, I want to go over what to take with you to your interview. You should bring everything that we sent you in your DHL package, and that includes your DS 2019. It says Certificate of Eligibility at the top. Your I-901 payment receipt. There's a couple of documents that are like information about Atlas Core. Your offer letter, so even that congratulations letter that was in that package, that counts as your like official offer. You should bring that, and there's a letter to the consular officer signed by Kelly Reed. So all of that was in your DHL package you should bring. You should also bring the DS7002 training plan that Sue Dakshina is going to email you today, right after this this webinar. And that is your training plan. It describes what you'll be doing during your fellowship. So it's really important, and it's been signed by us and your supervisor at DCPS, or our DCPS liaison. And then it also needs to be signed by you on the front page. So it says trainee intern signature on the front page, and you should sign it there. You should also bring form DS-160. This is the form that you filled out yourselves. Sometimes you're able to print a copy of it, and sometimes I think it just sends you like a confirmation email. Whatever record you have of it, bring it. Obviously, you should bring your passport. It's pretty important. And bring a 2x2 inch photograph that you can use for the visa. You should bring any documents demonstrating binding ties. Like binding ties to your home country is what I mean. So like a marriage certificate if your spouse is in your home country. If you have a letter from your current employer, proof of residency, all those things could be supporting documents. None of them is required, though. You can go ahead and bring the contract you signed with us as well, the sort of fellow agreement. And then also just double check the embassy's website in your country and make sure that and see if there's any country-specific documents or requirements. And let's see, if you are, pardon me, if you're going to your appointment with family members who are applying for a J2 visa, then obviously they should bring all the same paperwork, their passport and
their DS 2019.
Yeah, and their DS 2019 as well. So so bring all of that with you. And yeah, that basically covers what I wanted to go over. So remember to smile, be honest, be short and succinct with your answers. Remember to know what Atlas Core is and how to describe it. Never say work or employment. Always talk about training. And those are the big key pieces of information. Please keep us up to date with your visa appointment. So if you schedule it, let us know when it is. And after you've had it, please tell us as soon as you can how it went. So if you're approved, we can celebrate. And then if for some reason, whatever the reason is, if you were denied, please tell us as soon as possible so that we can work to correct it. But I don't anticipate any of you having problems. I think you will all do well in your interviews. And I'm just going to wait another minute or two because I know there's a delay between what I say and what shows up on the video, and see if there's any questions or comments. So I'll just stay on for another minute or two, and then we can get started with the weekend. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and obviously if you have any questions, just shoot us an email, and we'll get back to you. Great. Thanks. Oh my God, only 4 people.
So, okay, someone wrote, So if they ask about the salary, Atlas Core is the one that is going to pay me, right? Okay, so so first of all, it's not a salary, it's a stipend, although it is close in amount to the salary that DC public teachers receive. So Atlas Core is not actually the one who pays your stipend. I think it's either BCLI or the school that.
Yeah, it's the host organization, which for you guys is the DCPS.
Yeah,
so you're going to pay the stipend. So
your school is going to be paying you, not us. In fact, we pretty much only do the visa and some other logistical pieces.
So just like for keywords and for keeping it in your mind, your host organization is DCPS. Your program sponsor is Atlas Core. Mm-hmm. So just to make that distinction.
Yeah. All right, well, it looks like that was all the questions, so I'm going to sign off now. But obviously, like Sudakshina said, feel free to email her with questions, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And good luck on your visa interviews at the embassies. And I'm sure you guys will all do great. And let us know and keep us up to date on what's going on. All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye.